All right, everybody, welcome back. So in the last tutorial, we took the TEDx button there at the bottom, right here at the bottom of the screen, and if you hit that, it takes you to a website that tells you more about that. You can also do the same thing up here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and add that in. The TEDx button here at the top. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna drag the canvas because that's got our code attached to it. I'm going to pull down this function, we'll do the button logic, and then we're going to do the go to TEDx. So now both of those will take you to TEDx. And honestly, we could do the same thing here. That's an image, but we can add the button script. And then we can add the same thing here that we've added to our other buttons. So see how cool that is? You can write one piece of code and you can call it from multiple places. And that's one of the things I really love about doing it this way. But what I'm going to show you next, I'll show you for this Learn to Own the Room button. If we click that, it's just going to pull up a panel, and I'm just going to put an image on the panel. So to do that, the first thing I want to do, I don't want to have to create a new panel and resize it. I mean, I've already got a panel here that is sized perfectly. So the quick thing that I like to do is I'm just going to right click on that, and I'm going to go to duplicate. And when you duplicate, it puts it at the end of your wherever the end of the parent. So the parent in this case is the canvas, right? So the canvas is a parent to the main panel, the menu panel, and now this main panel too. But we're gonna rename this because it's not main panel anymore. This is going to be our we're going to say Learn to Own. Okay. Learn underscore to underscore own underscore panel. That's the Learn to Own the Room. That's why I'm calling it that. I'm going to erase that parentheses 1, hit enter, and now that has changed the name of our game object. So, and we know it's there because it's actually behind, let's see. Yeah, so every time you put something in a hierarchy, the last thing gets drawn to the screen last, meaning that the first thing that gets drawn to my screen or gets activated in this whole thing is my main camera. Then my canvas gets written, and then the main panel, everything in there gets drawn, and then the menu panel gets drawn. For instance, if I had the menu panel, if I move it right up under canvas, when I hit this button, it's going to move it over, but it's going to move it behind it. And that's another key thing to know is you need to know your draw order of these apps to make sure that things are being shown. So I'm going to Command Z that back because I want to put the menu panel right there on the bottom. And then this one is now Learn to Own panel. But I'm going to go ahead and we kind of want to keep the home screen elements, but we don't need these 3 buttons. So I'm going to go ahead, because I'm not going to do buttons for this one. I'm just going to do one big image, and we're going to delete those buttons. We want to keep our hamburger menu because I think you should still be able to get the hamburger menu going. And if that's the case, we're going to pull this menu panel and we're going to put it right here, not right there. Command Z that back, close this. We want to drag the menu panel and put it right below Learn to Own. Make sure it doesn't become a child of Learn to Own like I just did. Make sure it's actually right there on the very bottom. Having the menu panel on the very bottom will ensure that it always gets drawn on top of everything else in your scene. Okay? So we're going to do... So you see how this looks a little fuzzy? So what we want to do is we want to click on Learn to Own panel, go over here to the color, and we're going to drag the alpha all the way down to 0. And that'll fix that. And just to see what we're working with in our new panel, I want to deactivate the main panel so I can see what's going on. Okay, so cool. So we have this Learn to Own panel. We still got the TEDx button there, which is cool. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, we still have the hamburger button. I'm going to leave that there too. and home screen element. Now this is where we're going to add, I'm going to add in one big UI image. Okay. And that image is going to be, let's go to our project folder and let's look at our assets. I don't remember if I brought in anything. Okay, so I created this new image called new panel. I found a better decent one. I found a more decent picture that might be a little higher quality than the original one. So it really doesn't matter at this point, guys, what you use. This is just for learning anyway. You don't even have to use an image. You could use text, or you could make your own thing on there, as long as it fits on that panel. So I'm going to drag in this new image into my project, just like we've done before with other images. Okay, so let's go to our scene. And we're going to go to Learn to Panel, Home Screen Elements, and we've got this image here that we want to add, and we're just going to drag our new panel image right here to the source image. And do we want to preserve aspect? So yeah, and then we can make sure this stretches with our screen. Now it's going to the very top right, but I think if we took our image and put it actually under there, then we could stretch that out. Because we were in our home screen elements, it was controlling our layout. And we're just going to delete that for now, because just for one image, you don't need it. That's good if you're laying out buttons, or if you're laying out multiple images, right? Like we've done before in previous tutorials. So, but now with that, no matter what happens, if I change this screen, and you want to make sure your TEDx button, if you still want that to show, is under that. Remember the drawing order things we talked about? And then also our hamburger button. There you go. So yeah, this is just an image, and yeah, so that's what you get with that one. So now we've got our panel, set up, and now all we need to do is write code that can switch to this panel from the main panel from hitting that button, right? So let's go back. Let's activate our main panel. And we're going to deactivate our Learn to Own panel so we can go back and see our main panel. All right. Learn to Own the room. We're going to click that. Make sure that's the top button clicked. We're going to go down and we're going to add code that goes here. So you should still have your button logic script open. If so, let's close that. If so, let's go ahead and add another function, and we're going to call this, we're going to do public void. Void. Try that again. Cannot type tonight. All right, void. We're going to call this go to learn own room. Crazy name. You can name it however you like, but just know that this goes with that. All right. So remember that these are panels, but ultimately, what is a panel? We've talked about this before. A panel is nothing more than just another game object in our scene. And we have a really easy bit of code to activate and deactivate game objects. And I'll show you that right now. So what we want to do, let's go back to our code here. And we're going to, at the top of our class right here right under public class, right under this part and right under this bracket, we are going to add, we want to add a reference. We're going to create a variable, some game object variables. So we're going to do public game object, and we're going to call one main panel, comma, because we're going to declare another game object variable, main panel, and we're going to call this learn to own panel. All right, and don't forget your semicolon. Okay, so at the start, first thing is when this code first starts, the first time it ever starts, we want to make sure that the only panel active is our main panel, right? Because if learn to own panel is active, it's going to cover up our main panel. So what we do is to make sure that learn to own panel is not active at the very beginning. We're just going to do one line of code that says this: learn to own panel dot set active, open parentheses, and we're going to say false because it was looking for a Boolean. Do you see that? Let's go back and do that again. So I put learn to own dot set active, And then if you do the open parentheses, it gives you a hint. It says looking for a bool value. Remember, we talked about Booleans. Booleans are true or false statements. And if we pass off set active false and do a semicolon, it's gonna look for that game object, and it's gonna say, oh, okay, well, let's make it false. So that's how you set a game object to false. And when you set a game object to false, meaning that set the activity of it to false, it doesn't get rendered to the screen. None of the code attached to that game object is called. It's like it doesn't really exist, but it does. But this is the quick and easy way to make sure that's not active. Now, when we hit this code down here, go to learn own room function, we're going to want to deactivate our main panel and activate the learn to own panel. Okay. Actually, we're going to do it backwards. We're going to activate the learn to own panel first, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Learn to own dot set active, open parentheses, we're going to hit true, semicolon, and then we're going to call main panel dot set active, and we're going to make that false. Okay, cool. All right, so the reason we want to set the other one in true is because remember, it renders on top of the main panel, right? So it can go ahead and start rendering on the main panel, and then the next time it loops through the code, it's going to, or the next line of code is going to set the one behind it to false. If we set the main panel to false first, depending on your system, it could glitch or kind of get like a little jump to it, because, I mean, it's probably going to go so fast you won't see it, but you know if you do it this way, that kind of thing won't happen, okay? It's just a kind of a little trick in coding to know these kind of things, just from trial and error of coding for a while. All right, so with that code, we should be in business. So let's go ahead and go to File. We're going to save all, go back to Unity, make sure it's compiling down here at the bottom. All right, we didn't get any error messages. That's good. Let's highlight that button again. Go over to button script, and it's not that one. It's learn to own, the top button here. Learn to own the room. Go to button script. We're going to click down on that, and we're going to add in this canvas object again, and we're going to go to button logic, and we're going to go to learn own room function right here. All right. So let's see. So remember, just to show you, when this fires off, this learn to own panel should be deactivated. And to test that, I'm going to leave this as active just to show you that code gets hit. Okay, let's hit play. So here's a good lesson. You look down here, it didn't work because unassigned reference. Remember, we made these public variables. Let's go look at our code. I made public variables for these panels, and I never assigned them. Even though I gave them a space, I didn't assign them. Remember, we have to assign them in Unity. So let's go to Canvas. Let's go down here to our button logic script. We're going to expand it and see these two game objects. There's none there. So the main panel, we're going to drag the main panel over here to that one. And we're going to drag the learn to own panel over here to this one. Oh, try that again. Okay. So now it should work. Let's hit play. This should deactivate. There you go. And now we're at the main panel. And we can see over here it's deactivated because it's got that different color. So these are active. They're more dark black. This is more gray. That lets you know that it's deactivated. Okay. So let's test it out. Learn to own the room. If I hit that, there you go. It took me right to that. I can hit the hamburger menu will still work. TEDx should still work. All right. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's cool, but how do I get back to the main menu? So, and that depends on the device. If you're on Android, we have a kind of a back button that's built onto the phone down here. If you're on iOS, you can either put that into, depending on how you like it, you can put it here. You can put a button here that will take you back to your previous screen or to the main menu, or you can put a small button at the top. I would say we're going to put we're going to make the event button go to the main menu. Or you can add another main menu button if you want, but just for simplicity's sake, we'll just make the event button do it. And it's basically what we did just now, but backward. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's go back to our code. And let's add in another line, public void go to main menu. Forget parentheses, open close brackets. And I'm just going to copy this code. I'm going to paste it here. But this time I am going to move this. So I'm going to cut that, put it right above that guy. Change this to true. Okay. And then we're going to change this guy to false. All right, you see what I'm doing there? When this gets called, main menu panel is going to set the activity of it's going to be set to true. And the set active function of this is going to be set to false for the learn to own panel. Let's go to File. We're going to save all. We're going to go back to Unity. Make sure it's compiling. Make sure we don't get any errors. No errors. Good. And so now we need to go to the event. So see how I highlighted that? Go to the button here. And we're going to add, just like we've done before, drag the canvas over. We're going to go to button logic, and we're going to go to main menu. All right? Or main menu. I said menu. So that should work. All right, so let's hit play. Let's go to learn to own the room. And let's go here. Let's hit the event. There you go. Now, some more functionality you could put in is maybe when you hit the event, you want this guy to close, right? So let me show you how to do that. There's a little trick. I wasn't going to go that deep into it, but since we're already here, there's a little trick you can do. You can invoke any function within the app, meaning you can invoke any button that's in your app. You can invoke it from anywhere. So you don't actually have to click it to call the code associated with it. And I'll show you what I mean. So it would be nice if we hit the event here that it would bring us back to this page and then close that slider, right? So let's go back to our code. So first thing we want to do is we want to create a reference to the button. So this is kind of the dirty way to do it. Public, we're going to call it, say, button. And this is called the event button, right? We can call it, we can't do event because that's a keyword. Button, event button, let's say BTN. Okay. And now what we can do is when we set all this right under here and go to main menu, we're going to say event button, the one we just wrote, dot on click, because all buttons have an on click function, dot invoke, open and close parentheses. So now what that does is that takes the on click function, which is on every button, and I'll show you. So this button has an on click function. And that's what we've been calling. On click is just an event that gets registered in Unity. And so if you register that on click function, every time it sees that, it's going to call the code associated. In this case, it's calling button logic dot go to main menu, as you can see here. Now, for this other button, the event button, I call it an event button, but this is really the arrow button. So let's rename that to arrow button. We'll do the same thing down here. So now, did I not? I had a T up in the top. There we go. So now it's going to hit that arrow, but it's going to invoke the button for the arrow, right? And remember, when we click that button, it calls the main menu panel movement.move panel back function. All right. So let's see that. Let's see that in action. Let's go back to Visual Studio. Let's make sure we've saved. Save all. Go back to Unity. It's compiling. No errors. Remember, we have to go to our canvas. We have to assign that button. Remember, we don't have that button yet assigned in our button logic script right here. So let's, I think it was this arrow button, arrow back button. Okay. So click on canvas. Now grab the arrow back button and pull it right there. Now let's hit the play button. And let's go to learn to own the room. Let's pull back the event. And there you go. Now it's closed. Now if we hit this button, it's going to come back and it still works like it did. So there you go, guys. That's about all I got to show you for this series. So some takeaways here that you should know about. Well, first thing is build this out. And if you don't remember how to build it out, here's a card up here to show you how to. We've done it before. But go ahead and build this out, test it on your device, make sure everything's working. And then some kind of homework or future things for this. If you want to do some cool things, we have this movement here. There's nothing to say that you can't have these big panels, right? These this whole area. There's nothing to say that we can't make this whole panel here move, right? So we could make, when we hit our button, we could just use the same code logic, and if you follow the tutorials for the sliding menu here, you can create your own kind of sliding panels. Meaning that, when, let's go ahead and let me turn this off. Meaning that when this guy, when you click learn to own the room, it could take this panel, move it, and at the same time it's moving this panel over, it could be dragging in. This panel could be sitting over here to the right, and then it could just slide in. And you could do the same thing, kind of code you did there, but in reverse for that one. You can also make them fade in. You can Google, go to the Unity documents, look up how to lerp colors. You already know how to lerp positions. You can also do that with colors. So you can lerp in the alpha channel, for instance, and you can fade in panels. And that's kind of some homework. You should try doing some different things with that. And then when you start getting a little more advanced, you can start doing things like putting in a scroll bar, putting in a scroll window, and that will be in some tutorials coming soon. But for now, you know how to make a basic app in Unity, and it should get you a good start to keep exploring. I'm going to do one more video to show how to put all this on Android, and then we'll be finished with this tutorial session. So thanks guys for tuning in for all these times. I hope you've been learning a lot. Let me know in the comment section or email me from the email address on the website. And I look forward to seeing you in the next and last video of building all this to Android. All right. Thanks guys, and I'll see you later.